Hi, welcome to the Indic Trails of the Lede. Today we have with us an interesting guest, a prolific writer and thinker. Sandeep Balakrishna is an author and writer and speaker. He is also the founder and editor of Dharma Dispatch. Sandeep writes extensively about Indian history and culture. He also writes about the civilizational ethos and history of Sanatana Dharma. He is the author of 6 books, including Tipu Sultan, the Tyrant of Mysore, the Madurai Sultanate, A Concise History, and Invaders and Infidels. He has translated Dr. S.L. Bhairappa's best-selling book Avarna into English. Welcome, Sandeep. The Lede Indic Trails is happy to have you with us. In today's discussion, we are going to go a little bit into the concept, the ideology, and the politics behind the word Dravidianism. But before we step into that discussion, Sandeep, I'd like to ask you a question. What is the origin, or rather the seed of the word Dravidian, Dravida? Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah. First of all, thanks a lot, Sandhya, for having me on the lead. I'm delighted to be here on this podcast, and I'm also happy to tell you that the topic of your choice is quite interesting. If not important. To begin, with the origin of the word Dravida. So that word comes from a Sanskrit root which can be derived as follows: Dhru plus ila. The root word Dhru plus ila is a affix added to this root. So from Dhru plus ila we get Dravila. And there is another rule in Sanskrit grammar which says that Dalayor Abheda, meaning the letter da and la are interchangeable. So
Okay.
through ila, you get Dravila. So because la and da are changeable, you get Dravida.
Okay.
So
So that's interesting. So
the
what's the
meaning
yeah?
of the word is Dhru, meaning tree or forest.
Okay.
So Dhru, you get words like from this root, you get words like Druma. Druma means a tree.
Okay.
So ila means that
Uh-huh.
which is filled by that object. So in this case, Dravila or Dravida means the land or the region filled with forests or trees.
Oh, that's interesting.
This is
Because
actually.
you, yeah, you because you try to look up in the internet, there are so many other meanings. Some of them
Hmm,
say
hmm,
that land, bounded
hmm,
by on 3 sides by waters, and
hmm, hmm,
others.
hmm,
So how correct
hmm.
are those kind of definitions?
Well, it depends on because this whole Dravida thing has been so confounded over at least the last at least 150 years that we get only confusions and not any conclusive kind of meaning. So we'll
Yeah.
keep that as a base for now, and as we go along, I'll try and explain how this came about, what are the implications. But in short, Dravida as a geographical indicator, okay,
Okay.
uh, it occurs throughout our literature in any language, in all Indian languages, right,
Mm.
beginning right from Sanskrit and various other Indian languages, and it has
Mm.
been used in the sense of
Mm-hmm.
indicating a particular geography or region in India, which
Mm-hmm.
can broadly be called Tamil Nadu, what is today known as Tamil Nadu. In fact, this term, Tamil Nadu, is a very,
Uh-huh.
very recent innovation or a
Okay.
recent coinage which happened after the linguistic division of Indian states in 1951 or 52. So before
Okay.
that, this whole people used to refer to the land of Tamil as
Mm-hmm.
Dravidana, strictly in the
Okay.
sense of geography.
Okay. So my question is arising from your linguistic. Now, the linguistic divisions of the states, of the states
Hmm.
itself, is a fairly, in terms of time, a fairly recent occurrence. And the word Dravida, does it actually refer to any particular language or linguistic, what do you say, geography?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, actually. Now, people from this Dravida region generally were understood to mean people who spoke Tamil, what is known as mother tongue,
Hmm.
people whose mother tongue was
Hmm.
Tamil.
Hmm.
And those who lived in that region were known as Dravidas.
Okay.
And
Okay.
interestingly, several works, for example, Kalhana's Rajatarangini, I take
Yes.
two random examples. Kalhana's
Uh-huh.
Rajatarangini
Mm-hmm.
and Tamil work, classical Tamil work, Silapadikaram.
Okay.
Both of them, they
Hmm.
mention the
Hmm.
term Aryavarta. Okay.
Yes.
They mention the term Aryavarta as a
Hmm.
geographical indicator,
Okay.
as the land broadly that lies in the region of northern India. And
Okay.
we need to remember that
Hmm.
northern India is not the northern India of today.
Right.
It included all of Pakistan and Afghanistan.
Okay.
And nowhere does Rajatarangini or Silapadikaram
Hmm.
use this word Aryavarta in the
Hmm.
sense of people.
Hmm.
It is a geographical marker.
Right. So it's a purely geographical marker. So
Yeah.
in that sense, even Dravida, it must
Mhm.
have been a geographical marker, not referring to a peoples. Am I understanding you right?
Yes, absolutely. To an extent, to the
Okay.
extent that it refers to people. So
Hmm.
Dravida,
Hmm.
other form of Dravida becomes Dravida. The other noun
Okay.
form or adjectival form of Dravida becomes Dravida.
As a reference to those who live in that
Yeah, grammar.
geographical space.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
whose
Yeah.
mother tongue was Dravida
Hmm.
Bhasha, which is
Okay.
Tamil. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I mean, let us get on to how this word Dravida became
Mm.
Dravidian.
Mm.
Where did it begin? Where did it first appear? How did
Mm.
the start of this concept of Dravidianism begin?
Mm. So this begins with a Christian missionary known as Bishop Robert Caldwell.
Right. Yeah.
So he wrote a book called A Comparative Grammar of Dravidian Languages, and in
Okay.
that book,
Hmm.
he explicitly mentions that I am coining this word called Dravidian languages. Until he wrote it in the mid or late 19th century,
Hmm.
there was no such thing called Dravidian languages as a family of languages.
Hmm.
So what Caldwell did
Hmm.
was to club all the languages spoken in Dakshinapatha, or what is known as South India, as Dravidian languages.
So this is not just Tamil. So it is.
He
If,
included all languages, including Tulu also.
okay.
Remember that Tulu has no written script.
Hmm. So this is interesting.
Yeah.
So when did this twist of Dravidian, meaning only those who belong to or speak Tamil,
Hmm.
when did that change come about? Because if I'm understanding right,
Hmm.
today I do not think anybody from any of the South Indian states call themselves Dravida. Am I
Hmm.
right? I mean, it's the Tamilians who exclusively, or people of the, it is today understood as a definition for the people who live in Tamil Nadu.
Correct. So Caldwell's mischievous theory
Okay.
of coinage of this Dravidian languages
Hmm.
that took the most root. It became deep rooted only in Tamil Nadu for another reason.
Hmm.
That reason was the emergence of the so-called Justice Party,
Okay.
led by so-called Periyar Ramaswamy Nayakar. So
Hmm.
a very dissatisfied man in many senses, but anyway, uh,
Hmm.
much of the coarsening of both political discourse and public discourse and political climate and
Hmm.
its downfall in Tamil Nadu can be. He's the father of the whole thing, but
Right.
I'm sure you know that better than I do. uh, he he took it to a new level in the
Hmm.
sense that he used it for his street level activism,
Hmm.
which it must be remembered that the success of the Justice Party and Ramaswamy Nayakar could not
Hmm.
be accomplished without street violence. He did not use ordinary methods of reason, debate, and discourse to achieve his political objectives.
Hmm.
So,
That's
in that
interesting.
sense, that is why in the Dravidian annals, so-called Dravidian annals
Hmm.
of the last 100 years,
Hmm.
uh, Caldwell has a special place. He's revered as Caldwell Appa and all that.
Yes, I've seen
This
that.
is a
Yes.
foreigner. This is a
Uh,
foreigner who comes here with the
uh,
explicit agenda of Christianizing Tamil Nadu,
okay.
or or at any rate all of South India. But his methods, his the blueprint of this, comparative grammar of Dravidian languages, that became the blueprint which Ramaswamy Nayakar kind of took it to a different level. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, that answers my questions. But I have a little more. I have one more, a little bit to ask you on the same question.
Hmm.
So, how did this clever exclusion of the other South Indian language, Dravida languages? So, Caldwell Appa,
Hmm.
he wrote comparative grammar of the South Indian languages. So,
Hmm.
where did these other South Indian languages get knocked off and only Tamil remain? How,
No.
where, and how?
That's a good question, actually. Sorry, you had asked this earlier. I missed out
Yeah.
in my response. Uh, because it took such deep-rooted that street activism in Tamil Nadu, thanks to this Ramaswamy guy,
Hmm.
that same climate did not exist elsewhere in South India.
Hmm.
It was
What would
basically.
you,
Hmm,
sorry, a slight digression before we come
huh,
back. What would you attribute to this climate
hmm,
in this one particular
hmm.
region, which was not existing in the other region? What would you attribute it to?
A lot of factors, for example.
Hmm.
I mean, there are no black and white answers or very definitive answers, but
Hmm.
there is something called a cultural inheritance,
Hmm.
and what is known as the regional flavor. I don't like using this term, but
Yeah, yeah.
lack is a better word.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Most of South India in that time was
Uh-huh.
under what is known as Madras Presidency.
Of course, yes.
It was an extensive part of India's geography,
Hmm.
stretching all the way up to Orissa also.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, in the other parts in South India, for example, Mysore, it was
Hmm.
a kingdom, and it was what is known as you had a resident that a British had appointed, but largely speaking, Mysore had preserved under the Odair rule. It had
Hmm.
preserved its Hindu cultural inheritance almost
Right.
intact. So there was a variation of the Justice Party here called some Praja something Mandali here.
In
So
Mysore.
that, in Mysore, that
Right.
arose in, roughly around Justice Party inspired by those guys, but it did
Hmm.
not kind of acquire the sort of brute
Popularity.
power or
Yeah.
street power
Hmm.
that the Justice Party acquired in Tamil Nadu.
Right.
One.
Hmm.
And two, the centuries of cultural inheritance
Hmm.
in Mysore state and several
Hmm.
other princely states in South India, that
Hmm.
was an extremely strong barrier to the extent that the Justice Party clones elsewhere, they eventually merged with the Congress Party.
Okay. So
So,
that's
yeah,
where the,
that
yeah.
is one difference, and similar is
Hmm.
the case with Andhra.
Hmm.
To a extent, to a very great extent, no, not great extent, but to a significant extent, this Justice Party thing also found many takers in coastal Andhra, Nellore, for example. You had a lot of landed zamindari people. There's some guy called one Naidu person, extremely wealthy guy who, broke bread with Ramaswamy Nayakar. He did one of the, something similar in that zone, but that didn't kind of take off. It didn't acquire much steam in Andhra as well. Plus, Andhra also had a lot of samsthanams, that is princely states.
Hmm.
Raja of Obili, several other Rajas like that. And then elsewhere you had Nizam of Hyderabad in Telangana. So all in all, it couldn't acquire because of this kind of cultural climate. The so-called Dravidian movement did not acquire power in elsewhere outside what is today known as Tamil Nadu.
Okay, so it got restricted within this geography.
Yes,
Sorry,
yes.
this was a digression from our,
No, 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 no.
yeah. So I like the way you are using the word inheritance. So
Hmm.
in that sense, does this concept of Dravidianism, as we see it today, it has taken us away from our cultural inheritance, isn't it so?
Yeah, well, it has not only taken it away, the founding agenda, one of the founding agendas of this uh, Ramaswamy Nayakar was to destroy Hinduism, was to destroy Hindu Dharma and to destroy what you just called cultural inheritance in Tamil Nadu.
Hmm.
Must be remembered that but for this Dravida, the kind of deep roots it acquired and the political heft that it got
Hmm.
after independence, especially after the DMK came into power, DK, DMK, all those guys came into power, that ensured that that is still the biggest obstacle. Few people, even today, don't realize the fact that in spite of at least 3 centuries of determined missionary efforts, and this whole Dravidian, so-called Dravidian movement, Tamil Nadu is still largely Hinduized. Any other place would have succumbed to, large-scale Christian conversions. I'm not saying that, it has not happened in Tamil Nadu, but the ROI, considering the period that even they've invested, it is actually pathetic, and that is something that we need to, console ourselves about or be happy about.
So I think part of this discourse, and find this discourse from whatever I have read very interesting. That you know, not only does this Dravidianism now give itself some amount of a linguistic and a
Hmm.
geographical boundary, it seems to have got for itself a history as well, which is a very very strange and very different history, because and you yourself have written about it in your Dharma Dispatch articles. I'm referring to the Lemuria, the Lemuria concept of them having come from Lemuria, a submerged continent, so to speak, and a dynasty and another of a dynasty that is a very specific Aryan dynasty having plunged the Dravidians into the Dark Ages. Can you tell us a little more about both?
Yeah, so I have to essentially give a semi-detailed background, to flesh this out. The when we can't talk about Dravidianism, that is, here's a very handy formula to understand these things. The moment you add the suffix ism to anything, it immediately becomes a political ideology.
That's
So
interesting.
when you say Hindu and add the suffix ism, it immediately becomes a political ideology. But is it a political ideology or is it an ideology in the first place at all? No, it is dharma. Dharma, darshana, these things all have very intricate, interrelated connections. But coming back to this thing, we can't talk about Dravidianism without talking about the so-called Aryan invasion theory or its later modification, Aryan migration theory. And both are two sides of the same coin, or you can also think of it as two interconnected threads of the same narrative. And the term Arya, this term, used in the sense of a specific race of people, did not exist before the 19th century. So you're talking of a period of minimum 7,000 years, if not more. 7,000 years until the 19th century, the word Arya was never used in the sense of a race of people. One, two, you look at the corpus of our literature, just Sanskrit literature, cutting across all genres, the Vedic corpus, the Puranic corpus, astronomy, mathematics, social texts like Dharmashastra texts, jurisprudence. You take this entire corpus, minimum it totals up to 70 lakh printed pages
That's interesting.
spread over about 7,000 years. Okay. And nowhere in this corpus do you see The word Arya used to denote a race of people who came from outside. Now, I have to take you back to that point also.
Yeah.
One of the many, look, this whole Aryan invasion theory has so many holes that, and so many internal contradictions that, when you read about it now, it is incredible that it used to be taken seriously. That many internal contradictions it is there. And one such hole is that, framers of this, inventors of this theory, they say that people, pastoral nomads from Central Asia, eventually migrated due to climatic conditions, and it was getting hard for them to find food there, whatever. And they migrated in two directions, eastwards towards India and westwards towards Europe. And
Yeah.
somehow the same theory which says that people who migrated from Central Asia into India call themselves Aryas. But the same theory does not say that the same class of the same race of people who migrated to Europe, like ancient Greeks and Romans, why did they not call themselves Aryans?
Yeah. That's an interesting question.
So you see these, contradictions and, all kinds of mischief which has no basis in reality or history. And the meaning, the basic meaning for the word Arya throughout, it is being used in the sense of a person who is noble, who is worthy of respect and reverence, who is refined, who is cultured.
Hmm.
This is the sense even today. The word Arya is used in all Indian languages. It does not
Yes.
say anywhere, when you use the word Arya, it does not say anywhere that, Arya is a person, forget, coming from outside India. It does not say anywhere that Arya means Brahmins or Arya means people of fair skin. Nowhere is it used
You're
in this
saying
sense.
it's not a racial name. It's not
No
the,
way.
it's not a,
No,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no. Now, the root of the word Arya, it comes from Arya or Arya.
Hmm.
And another synonym for Arya is Vaishya. This is the original name of Vaishya. Today, over
Hmm.
a period of time, when you say Vaishya, it means merchants and, business
Yes.
class.
Yes.
That's not true. So Arya means farmer.
Hmm.
Vaishya also originally meant farmer.
Hmm.
And in ancient times, there's a famous English proverb, right?
Hmm.
Agriculture is the first culture,
Yeah.
right? So in
Yeah.
that sense, yeah, from, forest dwellers and, hunting nomads kind of a thing,
Yes.
when you settle in a place and you're guaranteed regular crop and food and things, you get leisure.
Hmm.
And bit by bit, your
Evolving
base,
into a,
your baser instincts will become
uh,
softened and refined. You will have
hmm.
time to contemplate on deeper things in life, things like that.
Right.
So, when you see that, in that respect, when you say that, when I said that, the meaning for the word Arya means farmer,
Hmm.
it neatly ties in with what we also just saw, that
Yes.
agriculture is the first culture, meaning an Arya is a person who's cultured. Make
Okay.
sense?
Yes. A person
So,
with refinement, and it's also
yeah,
the first farmer, so to speak. The
yes,
farmer. Yes.
yeah. Even today, if you go to rural Karnataka and elsewhere, I don't know about other places.
Hmm.
Deep inside the rural, you have a category of bulls, which
Hmm.
are known as Arya. Arya
Okay.
Kona. Kona means bull.
Hmm. Bull. Okay.
Arya Kona is Kona, which is castrated, a bull which
Uh-huh.
is castrated and which is used for agriculture.
Right.
When you castrate a bull, it loses its ferocity, right?
Yes. 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 It becomes a domesticated
Becomes
animal.
a domesticated
Hmm.
animal, which means it is cultured. It
Hmm.
can help you till the land and grow
Hmm.
crops and supply you with food.
Yeah.
So this is a whole thing. So nowhere, is the word Arya used in the sense that Europeans used it.
Hmm. In
And
some sense, this is this is a kind of a inversion of it is us. I mean, when we talk in these same terms, that is, we who belong to the subcontinent and have this inheritance of this culture, and we
mm,
speak the same way of ourselves as the Europeans do and did, then it
mm.
is ourselves looking. I mean, I may sound a little bit like Nityananda, ourselves looking
Mm.
at ourselves through the prism of their
The
eyes,
you
isn't
in the
it?
you and the me in the you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, uh.
So
Yeah, so
this is a very,
uh,
pardon? Yeah,
we have internalized the European colonial construct.
right.
Now, there is another, perspective, way to understand this whole Aryan migration.
Hmm.
When European scholars studied, concocted this theory,
Uh-huh.
one of the basis for their, invention of giving this racial meaning
Hmm.
to the term Arya and
Hmm.
Dravida
Hmm.
is the sense that it came from their own cultural experience.
Right.
Racism is almost always synonymous with skin color.
Yes. And I think that's something that
That doesn't exist in India, right?
yeah, but we have ingrained it, haven't we?
Yeah,
The fair and lovely
unfortunately,
and stuff. We seem
yeah,
to
yeah,
think lighter skin color is more desirable, isn't it?
and more beautiful and things like that. Yeah, so
Yes.
so that is what we have internalized,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Okay,
Yeah.
that's like I said, it's 75 years too late to decolonize, but let's see
Yeah.
how it goes.
Yeah, so we were talking about you. I think you began this, you began to explain this in the context of the
Hmm,
histories that have been created for the word
hmm,
Dravidian.
hmm.
Hmm?
So, okay, now the other side of this Dravidian and Aryan thing, right?
Hmm.
So, the colonial narrative pit the Aryans against the Dravidians without any basis or without
Right.
any evidence, based purely on conjecture. Things like that. I mean, it's bizarre the kind of theories that they gave. So, one of
Uh,
the meanings for, according to this racial theory of Arya,
hmm.
one of the meanings was that all Aryans were
Hmm.
fair skinned
Hmm.
and Brahmins.
Hmm.
Okay, all the dark skinned people were Dravidians and Shudras,
Okay.
which brings us to a very, very interesting question. And remember what I said, at the beginning of this
Hmm.
discussion,
Hmm.
that the word Dravida
Hmm.
was never used as a racial construct, but
Hmm.
as a geographical
Geography.
mark, right?
Right.
Now, when you call someone like Dravida, it means his
Hmm.
mother tongue is Tamil. Now
Hmm.
you have a group of people,
Hmm.
a group of Brahmins who are dark skinned
Hmm.
and who are also known as Panchadravidas.
Hmm.
Okay, it's a very old classification. At least it has a history of minimum 1,200 years. This
Hmm.
classification. So,
Hmm.
who are the Panchadravidas?
Yeah.
Dravida, Karnata, Tailanga, Gurjara, Maharashtra.
Okay, I see.
Dravida is people, Brahmins whose mother tongue is Dravida or Tamil.
Mm-hmm.
Tailanga, which is today known as Telangana, rather
Mm-hmm.
Andhra Pradesh.
Right.
Gurjara, which is Gujarat.
Yes.
Maharashtrians,
Hmm.
and yeah, five people.
So this is
So these
again
are Brahmins.
geographical.
Geographical. These are Brahmins. They're supposed to be fair skinned, but they're not.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're called the
And
Dravidas.
they are supposed to be Shudras according to this theory. They're not,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Panchadravida. So
Right.
that was a geographical marker. Just like you have Panchadravidas, you have Gauda Brahmins,
Hmm.
okay, which is usually denoting North Indian Brahmins, which includes people, Brahmins from Bengal,
Hmm.
Kanyakubja, Mithila, and
Hmm.
other places.
Hmm.
You see how this goes.
Yes.
So you can't box these. You're talking about an extraordinary period timeline.
Hmm. Hmm.
A lot of evolution and changes in both space and time.
Hmm.
Now, the Gauda, right? Gauda
Hmm.
Brahmanas.
Hmm.
Here you must have heard of Gauda Saraswata Brahmanas and Gauda
Yes.
Brahmanas. The
Yes.
word Gauda means Bengal, parts
Okay.
of Bengal, and
Right.
it comes from the word Guda.
Hmm.
Guda means jaggery.
Okay.
So they are called Gaudas, Gauda Brahmins,
Hmm.
because they hail from Gauda country. Why is it called Gauda country? Because jaggery used to grow in abundance there.
Okay.
For
But I
this,
think. Uh,
you have even testimonies of foreigners,
hmm.
chroniclers,
Hmm.
who visited India for various reasons.
Hmm.
And one part of these Gauda Saraswats, not
Hmm.
Gauda Saraswats, but Gauda Brahmins,
Hmm.
due to Islamic invasions,
Hmm.
one branch or one origin of Gauda Brahmins were also
Hmm.
there in Kashmir.
And I think they are.
You,
You can see them in Karnataka, isn't it?
yeah, I'm coming to that. So
Hmm.
once these Islamic invasions, began repeatedly, waves after waves of these migrations happened.
Hmm.
And several important families of these Gauda Brahmins
Hmm.
migrated to the Konkan coast.
Hmm.
So you see Gauda Saraswat Brahmins throughout Maharashtra,
Hmm.
Goa, and Karnataka. You see them only in western coast. You don't see them in Tamil Nadu, along the Bay of Bengal.
So I see the point you are making. The point you are making is that nothing can be boxed, nothing can be really defined into specific
Mm,
boundaries. And we are
mm.
culturally, we are rooted everywhere and in some place, and we carry
Yes.
those inheritances with us. And that's what I'm
Mm.
hearing you say. Am I right?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely right.
Yeah. So now I come back to my initial question before we digressed and came into this
Mm,
conversation was there was this kind of history attributed to the Dravidian people, so to speak, that
mm,
included this continent of Lemuria and
mm.
what do you say? What do you say?
Kumari
An
Kingdom.
attack by
Kumari Kingdom. Okay.
yeah, the Kumari Kingdom.
So here's
We'll
a
get to
okay.
that first. Yeah, the Kumari
Yeah,
Kingdom.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, it slipped my mind. It just kept going
Yeah,
on. So
yeah.
uh, one of the foundations for or reasons,
Hmm.
motives for concocting the Aryan invasion theory that
Hmm.
the British did,
Hmm.
primarily people like William Jones, Caldwell, and other people, but yeah,
Hmm.
William Jones, these
Hmm.
fellows, and even
Hmm.
John Marshall.
Hmm.
One of the reasons was that when they discovered Sanskrit
Hmm.
and began to study the language, its linguistics, phonetics, structure, uh, yeah, various aspects of the Sanskrit language, they
Hmm.
found that it had deep resonance. It had
Hmm.
incredible parallels with Latin and Greek, classical
Okay.
Greek and
Okay.
Latin.
Okay.
And then they figured that, the similarities and parallels are so intricate, they are so pronounced, that it began to give them chills down their spine, because that time uh, the prevalent narrative was that we are the masters of the world, because why?
Hmm.
Science allowed, and rationality, and the Renaissance, these
Hmm.
are our inheritance, so we were born to rule the world.
Hmm.
Military success across the globe,
Hmm.
it had generated this kind of a false sense of superiority complex.
Hmm.
They were like, how dare this kind of a language predate our theories of creation and evolution? Because the Christian theology sets a specific date on which the great Christian God created this world, which was roughly about 4,000 years ago. So they found that, some of these things, the Vedic sutras, everything, their antiquity was far greater than, the alleged creation of the world, according to Christian doctrine.
Hmm.
So they began to force fit the timelines. One, and if it is somehow proved, and by that time they had also begun making some theories that, India was always a land of invaders, that there is no such thing as native Indian people.
Hmm.
Right. So to force fit all these, to justify these theories, you had to invent an Aryan invasion.
Hmm. Hmm.
Correct. So you
Hmm.
read all those history textbooks now, all these fat volumes. I mean, it's incredible.
Hmm.
The lengths to which they've gone to falsify, the history and the roots of an entire unbroken civilization.
Right.
So from that, one obsession with both Semitic religions, both Islam and Christianity, which Christianity predates Islam, as you know,
Hmm.
is an obsession with time, a specific calendar date.
Hmm.
Because you divide both in the space, in the realm of space and time, Abrahamic religions divide it into they have two clear divisions. In the realm of time, there is before Christ, and then there is after Christ.
Right.
Okay. And in Islam, there is before Muhammad and after Muhammad. So the
Hmm.
Islamic calendar begins with Muhammad's migration to Medina.
Hmm.
That is date zero for them. Similarly, in this case. So unless you have this kind of, strict chronology,
Hmm.
their theological basis stands on that. And if you
Hmm.
take it off, if you say that there was a world that existed before Christianity, before the God allegedly created it, your whole Christian religion collapses like a house of cards, which is what exactly happened
Absolutely.
in Europe. So when they studied India at this depth and in such detail, they figured out that, look, this is going to cause a lot of damage. So you invent an Aryan invasion
Right.
theory, and this obsession with antiquity,
Hmm.
it still remains with them, which means to say that the more ancient you are, the better you are. You get to claim the first right over the world.
Okay.
So now, when the Dravidian thing,
Hmm.
when this same principle was applied to the Dravidian, so-called Dravidian history and the Dravidian
Hmm.
race,
Hmm.
there was a scramble to prove the authenticity of Dravidian, of the
Hmm.
so-called special Tamil people, or special Dravidian. Today, the word is Dravidian stock.
Huh. Yeah. Referring to the
So,
original inhabitants of the land, I must
original
say.
inhabitants. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is nothing new. If you
Hmm.
have studied Caldwell and all these fellows,
Hmm.
unfortunately, today's army of DMK and the Dravidian guys, they neither have scholarship nor any thing. They have slogans, but anyway, uh,
Hmm.
this obsession, this mad race to prove that we are more ancient than you,
Hmm.
means that we were the first people to arrive in the world, meaning we have the first right over creation, and by extension,
Hmm.
we need to get a separate country, or we need to rule over the world. The whole point, Christianizing the world, the meek shall inherit the earth, Darul Islam, all the mula, the root of all these, fantastic fiction is this.
Hmm.
So when the Dravidian ideologues swallowed it, including Ramaswamy Nayakar, there was a mad rush to prove that we were the first people in India,
Hmm.
which again brings back to what you correctly said, that the evil Aryan Brahmins pushed us down to South India. So how do you prove your antiquity? By inventing entire geographies, and one such invention was called Kumari Kandam or
Hmm.
Lemuria.
Hmm.
There are some extraordinary things, if you want to call it scholarship, but you should read the literature produced in the early 20th century, which gives an antiquity of 150,000 years to Kumari Kandam,
Okay.
which had allegedly stretched all the way to Africa
Huh.
and included all of India
Uh-huh.
and the Indian Peninsula, including Afghanistan. I mean, amazing.
Hmm.
Some variant of a pure Tamil was spoken in the icy valleys of Afghanistan.
Huh.
So this, I mean, it has no basis except
Uh-huh.
racial pride or a sense of inferiority or arrogance or misguided thing. So there
Hmm.
is no evidence for this. And suddenly that Kumari Kandam, there are several competing theories. But all of them lead to the same thing, that we are the most ancient people, and Tamil is the most ancient language.
Okay.
It all
This
leads to.
is so widely believed and easily
Hmm,
and widely believed, and
hmm.
nobody seems to be actually having conversations about this.
Yeah, it is widely believed because it took a lot of violence
Hmm.
and a lot of what can only be called unethical, immoral practices
Hmm.
to perpetrate it. Street level hooliganism, like I said,
Hmm.
and when you have the full might of state support,
Hmm.
it will enable you to pretty much do anything. A lot of history books were made to disappear from all libraries across Tamil Nadu.
Hmm.
Sanskrit, ancient Sanskrit Patashalas, which existed for about unbroken. Kadal Kurachi is a place in Tamil Nadu. It's on the coast, I think, where it
Hmm.
is.
Hmm.
So that had a Vedic Gurukulam dating back to at least 600 years, 500,
Okay.
600 years.
Yes. Yes.
One of the first things, even before the Dravida ideology acquired power, was to instigate violence against that Gurukulam. And within about 9-10 years, it lost its former glory. I mean, it's a very sad story.
Hmm.
Temples in Tamil Nadu, the fate of temples, which is widely being discussed, a lot of efforts are going on to rescue the temples. Why did that
Hmm.
happen? It happened because of this kind of invention, that all
Hmm.
you Aryans built these temples after oppressing us.
Hmm. So this
And
narrative has gained currency so easily, I think, in
no,
just the
it
span
didn't
of.
gain. It didn't gain currency easily. They invested at least 30, 40 years into doing it.
Yeah, I was going to say
Collaborated
over
with
a span of
uh,
100 years,
yeah,
centuries, just a
yeah.
century, isn't it?
Okay. These are deep roots they have.
So, what do you think could be a good way to unravel this narrative without hurting
Hmm.
people who very deeply believe in it? Because this is also a certain kind of an education, this understanding of our own history
Hmm.
from our own sources and not
Hmm.
through the eyes of a colonizer.
Well, we have come so far down the wrong path, that it is an uphill task. But I get your larger point.
Mm-hmm.
I can only suggest a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
Is first one is self education, and second, pass on this education to your children at a very very young age, at home, that whatever you write in your for your school exams or college exams, write it to get marks and
Mm-hmm.
pass the exam. That is not the truth. I'm not saying this. An extraordinary scholar of the last century, Dr. S. Shrikanta Shastri, he used to one of the most brilliant minds to be ever born in the last 300 years.
Mm-hmm.
That was his thing. So he used
Mm-hmm.
to openly tell his students in class, in college, university, that look, whatever thing about this Aryan invasion and all this nonsense I'm saying, you don't believe it. Don't believe it in your heart, because these are the evidences why it is wrong and why it is a falsehood. And this is the truth. But to get your degree, write whatever is taught to you in your textbooks. And Professor S.R. Rao, one of the greatest archaeologists of India, he was a student of Dr. Shrikanta Shastri.
Mm-hmm.
So, self education, you have to basically teach the kids. The narrative, which brings me back to the same point again, you said that, this narrative, how it has been popularized, through
Mm-hmm.
what it has been popularized, after these guys acquired political power, they
Mm-hmm.
rewrote all the textbooks, right? So you catch
Right.
them at the level of primary school. And when you grow up and you're 21, 22, by the time your whole outlook and worldview is already being shaped.
Yes, it
It
is
becomes
shaped to a
hard,
large extent.
and it becomes hard to unlearn it.
In some sense, this is what happened to the generation. I mean, perhaps our generation, isn't it?
Hmm.
There is a
Yes.
break in this continuity of understanding our cultural narrative. So, unshaping it is really hard, because to
Hmm.
disbelieve what you have been taught, to understand and
Hmm.
to understand the actual
Hmm.
reality of what history was, by, I mean, I would say it's like instinctive. Your first instinct is to say no. That, I mean, what I believe in is the truth. So
Hmm.
I understand that that would be the first reaction, because even today, Dravidianism builds the political narrative.
Yes, yes. No, but their hold over all institutions is, it is so deep rooted, and it is spread over so many decades, and you can't, undo it in a very short period. Merely
Hmm.
winning elections and, toppling the political regime, changing the political regime is not sufficient. It is a necessary but not a sufficient condition.
Hmm. So
That,
now I mean, you've talked to us about how uh, this whole Dravidian narrative was built. When did the twist to make it into a political? I mean, or was it already was the root of this whole concept political?
the root itself was political. Like I said, no, when you say Dravida, what did I say about
Hmm.
Dravida? It is a
Hmm.
geographical marker. You
Hmm.
add ism to it,
Hmm.
it becomes a
That's the
political
etymology of the word. Yeah. Yeah.
it becomes a political ideology.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
whole point about the Justice Party, so-called self-respect movement,
Hmm.
there's a collected writings of E.V. Ramaswamy Nayakar,
Hmm.
appalling the kind of vulgarity, crudity, coarseness, perversion.
Hmm.
He was not a normal person. Something deeply wrong, fundamentally out there. I can't mention it, in a public discourse, the kind of things that he writes in that.
Hmm.
And to that
So
extent, you have to appreciate his candor.
here, to in order to
Ah,
he's written it
hmm.
as who he was, isn't it?
Yeah.
In that sense, it is a very disturbing thought that,
Hmm.
I mean, since independence, who have been our political icons,
Hmm.
we are seeing them all disintegrate before our very eyes in some sense or the other.
Yeah,
Isn't that a bit?
that took about 75 years to accomplish.
Uh, But
Yeah.
I believe that Dravidianism is still growing strong as a ideology and as a concept. That alone, it
Hmm.
would take longer for people to be educated or uneducated, in that sense, about
Unlearning it.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unlearning, yes, unlearning.
Unlearning. Yeah.
Yeah. So, tell us a little more about this dynasty. There is, and it even has a Wikipedia entry, incredibly enough, the Calabras, who was supposed to have
Calabras.
been
Calabras.
Calabras.
There is some mention about a fleeting mention about Calabras in our history.
Okay.
Okay. But the Dravidian ideology inspired narrative, which talks about Calabras as evil Aryan invaders from North India, uh, who basically killed annihilated the whole pure Dravidian race. That's the word they use.
Hmm.
Pure Dravidian race. It is completely fiction. It's completely bogus. So what it does is two
Hmm.
things. Let us assume that Kalabras were evil Brahmins invading Aryans, invading from North India. Are you telling me that you strong, pure Dravidian stock were so cowardly, were so powerless not to defeat them? If you admit that they destroyed you, you are also admitting that you were weak.
I don't see a proper mention of timeline and chronology of this
Exactly, because
particular
it doesn't
dynasty
exist.
anywhere.
Because
Yes,
it doesn't exist. It could have been a
because
minor, yeah, it could have been a minor kind of a principality ruled by this Calabra, or like some chieftain dynasties of chieftains, vassals,
Hmm.
things like that. But
Hmm.
nowhere, close to, in terms of scale or their political power, nowhere close to what they claim that, they were so powerful that they completely destroyed Tamil Nadu. No.
So, do you
Yes.
think there should be an increased civilized discourse around this topic? And if so, how should we actually begin?
Okay. I'll answer this in three parts. First is the fact that the rebuttals to the so-called Dravidian ideology, they did not come recently. Even as the ideology was gaining in power thanks to street violence, there were several scholars across. These are hardcore, extraordinary scholars, polyglots. There were hardcore scholars who rebutted them. It- because the Dravidian guys, early Dravidian guys, could not answer a rebuttal with a rebuttal, they took to pelting stones and setting fire, arson, stuff like that.
Right.
So this counter narrative, it is not counter narrative, it is a corrective.
Hmm.
This has always existed, but that breed of scholars, another generation of that breed of scholars could not be born, because by that time the Dravidian parties had captured political power, which they would never let go. As a result, they rigged the education system so that these works would never come to light. And anybody who tried to write, and work in that atmosphere, in these areas, they would have their careers ruined. They would be sidelined, and some case even physically harmed. And off late, this is part two. Off
Hmm.
late, you not only have a awareness even within Tamil Nadu about this mischief of it is a basic open fraud, this so-called Dravidianism,
Hmm.
both in parts and in the whole, it is a fraud.
Hmm.
So there is not only awareness, but a substantial opposition at many levels has been built up in Tamil Nadu.
Hmm.
This conversations, this kind of thing would be impossible before the pre-internet era.
Right.
At any rate, over the last 20 years, it has gained a lot of momentum, and uh, it has been disseminated, continues to be
Hmm.
disseminated,
Hmm.
in a very good fashion across the world.
Hmm.
But they are pitted against the might of the state, which is an ideological state in Tamil Nadu. This is a big problem. And yes, we should keep, repeating the same things, keep giving these rebuttals, and increase the awareness about, the truth about Dravidianism, both on the ground and in academic and other circles as well.
Hmm.
And that itself, there's a new emergence of piety in Tamil Nadu, which was always there.
Hmm.
It has become vocal
Hmm.
in an unprecedented way, which we did not witness even 10 years back.
Right. And I think, like you said, social media has a lot of
Social media,
part to.
yes. I forgot to mention 2 points,
Right.
uh, 2 books rather, that
Uh,
people should read. Two
right.
authors.
That'll
One
be
is
great.
one is the late, the revered scholar, a real amazing man named Dr. R. Nagaswamy.
Yes.
Why Tamil Nadu is a Hindu state, or the Vedic roots of Tamil. There's a book called by that title. All of
Hmm.
you must buy it in large numbers and gift it to people.
Yes.
Seminal, eye-opening work. And
Hmm.
another work is by another scholar called Dr. B.G.L. Swami. Have written
BGS? Swami.
B.G.L. Swami.
Right.
Yeah, originally from my state, but
Hmm.
he spent most of his career in Madras.
Hmm.
He retired as the principal of Presidency College, Madras.
Okay.
He was a botanist by profession. He had done his PhD in botany from the
Hmm.
US. And
Hmm.
he gives us
Hmm.
the first-hand eyewitness accounts of
Hmm.
what Dravidianism in action
Hmm.
can do and has done
Hmm.
to both the Tamil culture, the educational system,
Hmm.
and the rest of it, academics, all these things. One example I'll give you.
Hmm.
There's one guy,
Hmm.
he had applied for a post of a Tamil assistant professor, one of those things.
Hmm.
This man, sorry, history professor.
Okay.
This man's qualification was that he used to write publicity material for the
Hmm.
DMK.
Okay.
That was his qualification.
Hmm.
Something like that. And
Hmm.
Swami said, look, you can't even apply.
Hmm.
I can't consider you.
Hmm.
Then what he did, he was
Hmm.
a card carrying member of the party. He
Hmm.
pulled some strings there, and Swami
Hmm.
gets an order from the top saying that you have
Hmm.
to appoint.
Hmm.
So he appoints him,
Hmm.
and in 2 or 3 years, this guy becomes doctor, whatever his name is. I forget his name.
Yes.
And he sits on the committee to write the official history volumes of Tamil Nadu.
Hmm.
This is a destruction. Then, in those days, Presidency College had a fantastic library.
Hmm.
It really pains me a lot to say this, that under the new dispensation, entire shelves consisting of thousands of books were deliberately made to rot in the campus in
Hmm.
rain, sunshine, rain, nobody to care for. Finally, Swami writes that, it was so bad that the wooden hinges had broken, the glass had broken, and all the, pages of the books, they had become sacrificial fodder for sun and rain. Some of those invaluable books, they could have been just one editions, but they're lost forever.
Thank you, Sandeep. This has been a very, very interesting conversation. Though today we have just touched on what the surface of the concept of an ideology of Dravidianism. Like you very correctly said, self education is where we begin with our exploration of, what our cultural inheritance has been as Tamilians. Thank you very much for your reading recommendations. And we
Mhm.
hope to have you sometime again later on Indic Trails again. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Sandhya. It was a
Thank,
absolute pleasure and delight to be here. All the
thank you,
best.
sir. Yeah. Bye.